Smith & Wesson.
It is dialed in.
John Moses Browning, by all accounts, a firearms and engineering genius, a name that echoes in history. Many smart people around the world feel one of his greatest life achievements was the design of the 1911 semi-automatic handgun, which, after 100 years in existence, is more popular than ever. Hello world, hello TMPers, this is Nutnfancy running the Nutnfancy project. Time now for a little philosophical discussion on the 1911 handgun. Kind of philosophical. Actually, it's going to serve a very distinct purpose, and that is to save me time in future tabletop reviews of 1911 style of handguns. If you guys have been watching the Nutnfancy project for any length of time, you know that when I cover an item, I try to be thorough. I try to give you the information that I myself would want to know as a user or potential buyer of that item. I do it via, you know it, slam the talking points. Keeps me organized. Yeah, I still forget stuff. Get some facts wrong here and there. I try. And that's the purpose of this video, to save time. Specifically on those first three talking points when we're talking about 1911s. Philosophy of use, size and weight, and firepower. That's because with the type, there's a lot of similarities, right? We're talking at least about full-size 1911s. A lot of similarities within those first three talking points. If there are variances within that specific review, I'll say so as I see it. But I'm going to annotate this video and send viewers here if they're interested on my overall philosophy of the 1911, at least as far as those first three TPs go. All right, few ground rules. Okay, guys are passionate about 1911s. Yes, I get it. I know. By the way, I'm one of those people. What? Nutnfancy, we didn't think you liked 1911s that much. Well, let's go back in time a decade. If you were to ask me, hey, Nutnfancy, would you carry a 1911 as your go-to-war option? I'd say absolutely not. There's no way. And, you know, in some cases, I still may say that. And we'll get into that in POU here in a second. But I'll tell you, as of late, I've been shooting a lot of 1911s, and I've really warmed up to them. Well, again, POU, we'll discuss all that. I've become, like many other users, much more passionate about 1911s. Talking ground rules here, though. When someone is passionate about their thing, whatever it is, gun, car, knife, sometimes they go overboard and they become myopic. That's what I call it. Have ever since I began TMP. And myopia means that you don't see any other way besides yours. Your way is the right way, whether it's your style of gun, the 1911, whether it's your brand of gun, you know, Wilson Combat, you know, STI, Les Bear, Ed Brown, you know, Kimber, Springfield, you know, Smith & Wesson. That's the best 1911 in the world. Let's not do that here in the Nutnfancy project. I expect, honestly, that we're more mature than that. That we can see other people's opinions, acknowledge the logic and good in them. And if we, you know, have differences, who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. We're all on the same team. We should all be freedom lovers, members of the National Rifle Association fighting for our rights. Okay, also a couple things. I did a video a long time ago, foundational to TMP for just such an occasion, called 2 Types of Cool. And that is talking about how to evaluate items. First type of cool is serviceability and roll. We can measure that objectively. Accuracy, weight, reliability, reputation, track record. The second type of cool is harder to define, purely subjective. It's how that connects with the individual on an intrinsic level, how they like it. It might be a knife, it might be a gun, it might be a 1911, it might be a certain brand or color or style of 1911. And if a guy, in my opinion, says, hey, second type of cool, I just like it, it's off limits. You cannot criticize him for that. You cannot criticize her for that. Whatever it is, you guys need to know that. It's very important. If you know, it's a get out of jail free card. Hey, second type of cool, I just like it. Right on, man. Amen, brother. We all have stuff like that to some other people that say, I can't believe you like that. You're an idiot. No, he's not an idiot. He just likes it. We all have stuff like that. So please be respectful in the comments. You know, armchair elitism, you know, soapboxing in the comments, not welcome here in TMP. I mean, make your point. Disagree, that's totally cool. Be cool with each other. Make it fun. Keep it fun. That's a ground rule for this video. I know, a lot of passion in the 1911 community. Also, I don't think I'm a 1911 expert. I don't. I think a 1911 expert is someone who's ran competitions with them year in, year out, that has all types of makes and models, that builds them, that modifies them, that can gunsmith them all day long. That's an expert in the 1911. Maybe it's someone who's fought with them year in, year out in their job, you know, and they have a lot of distinct preferences of what they like. And there's a lot of that in the 1911 community. I get it. Again, I know I'm probably less stringent along those lines. I'm more forgiving. In other words, you know, I won't say, oh, only this feature works on 1911. And as a gear reviewer, if I were you, that's what I would really want. I would want someone that was more broad-minded and say, this is a good feature, this is the advantages of that feature, stuff like that. But again, that'll probably be best served in the individual tabletop when we get to that point. Can't speak. That'll probably happen a lot in this video, by the way. Let's get going. Philosophy of use. First up, talking 1911s. All right. Once again, I'm going to start off big, and that is go to war gun. What do I mean by go to war gun? And if you found this video via Google, which happens thousands of times a day, it seems like here in TMP, what I mean by that is a go to war gun. It's not that, you know, we want to go to war. It means that the propensity for armed conflict is not down here when we're carrying this gun. It's up here. Okay, it's higher. Okay, you might be a police officer. Okay, you do a traffic stop. Next thing you know, there's rounds being exchanged between you and what turns out to be not just a citizen, but a bad guy. You're in a go-to-war situation. Okay, maybe you are in special operations and, you know, you're doing house-to-house. You know, the chances of you using a sidearm pretty high. That's a go-to-war situation. In a situation as a civilian, and yes, it can and probably will happen in the future, we go into WROL, that is without rule of law situation where there's no police around, you provide your own protection or you have no protection. The chances of you perhaps needing a gun to keep your family and you safe, not down here, maybe it's higher. Is a 1911 a good go-to-war option? All right? Now again, some of what I will say you may disagree with, and that's totally cool, but the whole purpose of this video is to roll it in and make reference to it in future tabletop reviews. And it's my opinion, and it's my experience, snapshot in time of where I'm at. I'm always learning, I'm always progressing. However, if you've watched TMP, you know there's a rather remarkable consistency of philosophy that goes throughout the videos, and this one is no different. As a go-to-war, maybe you could even say WROL handgun, the 1911 probably would not be my first choice. Wah, wah. Nutnfancy, are you kidding me? Hold on, I'll get to it. I'll probably cover the very thing you're thinking right now. There's a lot of reasons for this. Primarily, most 1911s are made of steel. Okay, and we're talking about a steel 1911 like this Smith & Wesson 1911, and some guys will say, well, you know, that's a 1911, but it has an external extractor, so it's not true to John Browning's design. That's still 1911. Close enough, and I'll tell you this, it's pretty much reliable, in my opinion. This is a stainless steel 1911. We're talking 42 ounces, give or take, an ounce here or there. A 1911 made of steel is going to be heavy. And that's empty. That's no rounds. These aluminum, that's a scandium frame, around 32 ounces, let's just say. Okay, and we'll talk about firepower here, kind of. They're an 8+1 handgun. Some models, like I think Springfield's, they come with a 7-round mag. Of course, you can put an 8. They're going to be even less. So I'm carrying a 42-ounce gun that has 9 rounds. Remember, the POU is go-to-war gun. Okay, when we're in that situation, I'm not just carrying a handgun. I'm carrying a whole bunch of other stuff. Might be body armor. Might be a multi-tool. Tactical blade. Food. Water. First aid kit. All the stuff I've always said, and I always think in terms of systems and how everything integrates with the other thing. Right? So don't look at it alone when you're talking a go-to-war gun. That's a heavy loadout. And I've shot just here in TMP, just shooting with guys that show up with steel frame 1911s, doing our running guns, and we're running hour after hour in the hot deserts. I mean, it wears them out, and they're talking about it. They're like, man, this gun is freaking heavy. I'm not used to running with it. I'm like, well, welcome to TMP, number one, and welcome to reality, because in that type of situation, which I've discussed in a go-to-war situation, whatever it is, some situation, not all, you're going to be doing a lot of movement, a lot of exercising. My first option? Well, I probably not with what I'll basically say, but if I go with a scandium frame gun, then suddenly my options open up. I just saved myself, about 10 ounces, maybe a little bit less by going to that. Now this enters a realm, for me personally, Nutnfancy, as a go-to-war gun. These two. And there's other options. These, again, are just representations of the type. Weight considerations are key to me. And also the options of which this 1911 is going up against are amazing. They're advanced, they're lightweight, they're durable, they carry a lot of rounds, they're accurate, they're ultra reliable. I mean, witness the Glock, a foundational gun here in TMP. Witness the Springfield XDM, both of which have a lot of airtime here in TMP, lots of shooting time, thousands of rounds sent by me personally downrange with all these guns. I'm here to tell you they are bet your life reliable. SIG, P226, P220. If you want to go with a 45, go with a 45. Every gun I'm throwing in front of you is chambered in 45 these days. Smith & Wesson M&P series. Most of these reviewed previously in the Nutnfancy project. Highly recommended. These are all great go-to-war options. They're lighter, have more rounds than perhaps a single stack 1911 full size. Your mileage may vary. I understand that. As a go-to-war option, though, some guys will say, that's great, Nutnfancy. However, I do not shoot a Glock very well at all. I just cannot connect with a Glock. If you were to tell me that in our little fireside chat about the philosophy on the 1911, to me, that's also a get-out-of-jail card free. Because then suddenly you've demonstrated to me an understanding on what is most important. And what is most important is putting rounds on target. Okay, and it doesn't really matter the bullet launcher you're using. If you do it with a Glock, then use a Glock. But if you tell me I shoot a 1911 better than I do those other polymer guns and I can connect with it better, then guess what? I say this should be your go-to-war option, because you've got to get rounds on target. Whatever launcher you're choosing, if you can't get rounds on target, what's it matter? It ain't about looking cool, And you might have to take more weight. Maybe you like a steel frame 1911 for you shoots better. Guess what? You may be stuck with a 1911 steel frame because to you, perhaps not to me, because I shoot every platform you see on the table well, but to you, that makes sense. And that's good weight as a go-to-war option, right? For me, though, a scandium aluminum frame 1911 enters a realm as a go-to-war option. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of shooting with them lately here in 2010. Lots of rounds downrange. I can't tell you the ammo bills I've racked up. Amazing. Very expensive to shoot. Maybe I'll talk about that. I love the scandium and aluminum frame 1911s. They shoot well. They recoil for me just mildly more than a steel frame version. Much lighter. Great go-to-war option. And if you're good at reloading, you're really not that much at a disadvantage against this. And I might as well talk about this. We're kind of talking about firepower. You guys, if you've watched my tabletop reviews, I've made a big deal about firepower. That is rounds count in the handgun. Here we have an XDM9, an OD. What a great gun this is. Accurate, consistent trigger, same grip angle as Mr. Browning's 1911, right? 19 plus 1. Shut up. A lot of rounds. A little bit less if you choose the 40 version, even less if you choose the 45 round or 45 ACP version, but it's going to be a lot more than 7 or 8, right? These guns rock. I mean, they absolutely rock. I like a lot of rounds. However, I'm accountable to every round I fire. I mean, just because I have 20 rounds in this example doesn't mean I'm just spraying and praying out there. I'm making each one count. But in my opinion, like I've always said in my tabletop reviews, more rounds gives me more options. You know, the hit parade continues. SIG 226, you can get a Mech-Gar flush-fitting magazine, 18 rounds. You know, M&P series. Lots of rounds in those too. Okay, and then we get back to the 1911. 8 plus 1. Is that a huge disadvantage? A lot of philosophy, a lot of subjectivity involved in answering that question. First, I'm going to ask you how fast you reload. I mean, I've seen guys shoot the 1911. I mean, I'm like, wow. It's really not an issue that it only holds 8 rounds. I'm talking a single stack magazine, by the way. I know there's some double stacks like the Paras out there. Just talking a traditional single stack, we'll call it 8 round magazine. To answer that question, is that a disadvantage to you? I have to ask you, what's your training level? If you're really good with the 1911, your muscle memory's squared away, and you have a good carry system for extra magazines, you may not be much at a disadvantage at all. And you might opt for, I don't know, something that is not flush fitting. Here's a Kimber 10 round magazine. Shot a lot in the Nutnfancy project. 100% reliable. Works in any of these guns. So now you're 10 plus 1. There's other options, available to you. Firepower, and it just depends on the philosophy of use. When I'm talking about go to war option, I like more rounds. I'm not going to lie to you. I do. I also like the 45 ACP. I think it's a great cartridge. I like the 40 and 9 as well. And more importantly than any caliber choice is your ability to connect to the target. Can you hit the freaking target? If you can, it doesn't matter what you're shooting. Okay, so go to war option, you bet. Firepower, subjective. Generally for me, I like more rounds. But honestly, my 1911 skills are getting up there now, and I can reload pretty darn quick with a gun, so it's not a huge disadvantage unless you're injured. If you're injured or really shaken bad, and it can happen, might be an issue. Okay, philosophy of use. Right here. How about home defense gun? Nutnfancy, is it a good home defense option? I'm going to say yes, it is, with an asterisk beside that answer. By that I mean, again, we get to training. Is the user in the household familiar with the 1911 battery of arms? Do they have experience with it? By the way, these are all safety check guns. Okay, if the answer is yes, they're all experienced Nutnfancy, lots of trigger time on them. Maybe perhaps dry fire practice, which I'm an advocate of. I really am. Doesn't cost any money and it's training our muscles. Then yes, it's a good option. I would prefer as a home defense option a railed 1911. One of your first priorities as a homeowner, not one, but probably the first priority, is to identify your freaking target. Know what you're getting ready to shoot. Like you see on the SIG 226 carrying the outstanding Streamlight TLR3, previous review in the Nutnfancy project, highly recommended. Identify your target. Kind of hard to do if you have a flashlight in the hand and the gun in the other. I know there's techniques, and I think they're all kind of hokey. I know because I've shot with them a lot, and they suck. Having a light integrated onto your gun is probably your best solution in the home defense POU. Railed can have a gun. Back to the battery of arms. Okay, that's great. I have a lot of experience on the 1911 Nutnfancy. However, my girlfriend or wife does not. Probably not a great choice for her. Because what's going to happen is she's going to be panicked, like a lot of police officers who are also trained in the type do. Pick up the gun. They'll try to crank a round off. They won't be able to do so because they don't disengage the trigger. The safety. Maybe they don't know about the grip safety. You have to have a firm grip. Then you swipe the safety down. Now you can fire. You've told her 1,000 times, but in the heat of the battle, she somehow forgot. Happens all the time. The 1911, a little bit more complex. To you and me sitting here by the computer. That's simple. It may seem even ridiculous. How could that ever happen? Well, it does every day. You know, a gun that has a safety, you know, has the propensity of having a problem with that user, depending on what the mindset of the user is. You know, getting back to the, you know, just pull triggers like this, the M&P, there ain't no safety on this version of the M&P. You know, assuming there's a round in the chamber, you know, just pull the trigger. Simple. Maybe a better home defense option. I'm just saying. I keep it real. I keep it honest. That's my point of view. If everyone's experienced in the 1911 battery of arms, you bet it's a good option. Home defense gun. Again, keep in mind that light. Next POU. This one I really like. Competition. I've said this in my tabletops for I think some time. I haven't really done a lot of 1911 tabletops, and I don't even know how many I'll do in the future. But I did say, and I always have maintained, the 1911 platform is probably the best competition platform in the world. Why is that? Consistent trigger pull. That you can basically make it any way you want. You can make it as light as you want, get all the creep out of it. You can replace all your parts and really dial the gun into your preferences, which may translate into fractions of a second in your IDPA or IPSC, maybe bullseye competition. I don't know. Long sighting radius, great sights, good trigger, slim form factor, easy to change out the grips. And some people, like I said in the other POU, just shoot it better. As a competition gun, the 1911 dominates. And if you don't believe me, go to a competition. See what guys are shooting. You're going to see a lot of 1911s. You know, especially in unlimited class. Well, I guess maybe not unlimited, but it just depends on the class. But you're going to see a lot of 1911s. There's some great CZ options running around, but it's a dominating force. And along with that competition POU, I want to say recreation. That in and of itself is a great reason to own a 1911. Just recreation. You know, you're not planning to go to war with it. You're not a police officer. You're not in the military. You know, you may or may not agree with the whole WRL thing. You may say, we'll never have any problems, whatever. But you may just own a gun. Say, I just like shooting my 1911. I reload the 45 ACP. I have time to reload it. It's really not that expensive for me since I do reload. And I go out and I shoot and I just have a blast. I'm with you, man. Like I said, I've been shooting and man, I have had such a good time shooting. I mean, this 1911 PD coming to the end of its test phase. Actually, it's at the end of its test phase. Wow, what a fun gun to shoot. I just have enjoyed it immensely. And along with that, here comes another POU, separate and distinct from the recreational one. Get ready, 1911 fans, you're going to love this one, because I love it. Addiction. Yep, the 1911 is just an addiction for you. Okay, it's a project in and of itself. You have various makes and models. Maybe you're in just to one brand, and you like collecting the different 1911s. You like tweaking them, modifying them, changing, the trigger on them, the grips, the sights, the finishes, and it is just a project for you. I know there's thousands and thousands of good guys all over the place, and gals for that matter, that do that. They love it, and I am on board with it. I may shock you with that, but I'm on board with it because I feel that same passion within the last year, 2010, sinking into my soul. I do. I'm resisting it. It's like a siren song. The 1911 just pulls you in. You grab one, you go, wow, this is a nice gun. I really like it. And you're like, get excited. You start shaking. Go, whoa, this one's really cool too. I love that one. You like the features of it. Next thing you know, you got 20 1911s. All right, maybe not 20. 10. I know guys that have at least 10. Personally, 1911s. They're into it. It is their gun. All variations, different calibers. It's an addiction. Fun addiction. TMP gear junkie, man. That's what it's all about. Sorry. Could be knives, could be guns. A lot of guys, 1911. That is a distinct POU I'm going to break out. It's hilarious if you ask me. Okay, final POU. I probably forgot some. How about concealed carry? Nutnfancy, do you think a full-sized, it's a very important distinction, 1911 is a good concealed carry weapon? Probably not. For me. Guys are asking me, I'm telling you. Would I carry it? Or forget would. I've been a concealed carry permit on the civilian side of my existence, since the early 90s. Never carried a 1911 with me. Never planned to. least a steel framed 1911. That's a huge caveat. Please understand that. Scandium frame, aluminum, dude, I think it's in the realm of doability, big time. Much lighter than something like that. But I carry a steel frame all the time. All right, I understand that, but I will tell you this, knowing what I know now, you're the exception. You are. There's a lot of people that I know that start out carrying steel frame 1911s, maybe a steel frame, I don't know, Browning high power, also an outstanding John Moses Browning design, world-changing design, and they stop carrying it. They'll carry it for a couple months. I check in with them. Hey, where's your gun? It's at the house. I thought you loved it. Well, yeah, I do. Well, if you loved it in the CCW role, that is concealed carry weapon, you'd have it on your person, right? It's what I've always talked about. If you're going to carry. Choose something comfortable. For most people, a full-size steel frame 1911 is not comfortable. I'm going to be banging into it, thinking about it all the time, especially in the inside the waistband option. I know. Dudes, I've been around a while. There's good options out there, Milt Sparks. They're more comfortable, but it's still a life-changing addition to your wardrobe. More so than perhaps a very slender Kel-Tec PF9, Car PM9, or any of the other tiny, very lightweight to carry, semi-automatic pistols. Okay, I know there's other variations of the 1911 design, especially as of now. In 100 years in existence, we've seen the advent of subcompact 1911s, officers' models or even smaller. Then we have the commander-sized ones, aluminum-framed ones, in all kinds of calibers. I mean, like the Springfield EMP and 9mm. That is an amazing 1911. Very small and compact. That's a different breed. Okay, that gun I would feel very comfortable carrying concealed. It's small enough, light enough. Still not approaching the level of a polymer gun. Let's be real. I still think, ballparking like 26 ounces empty. Versus the PF9, 12.7 empty. Yeah, it's a big difference. So if you go with a smaller 1911, officers or commander size, maybe aluminum frame, scandium frame, then doable. Understand this though, talking concealed carry, POU. You cannot wave a magic wand and get rid of the laws of physics, especially if your bullet launcher is in 45 ACP. Let's take this gun. Here's an aluminum frame Taurus, 45 ACP. Yes, it recoils more than the steel frame version. You want to cut that slide down, you want to cut the frame down, it's going to recoil a lot more. Something you're going to have to train with, and in some ways I think of it as an expert's gun. Anytime we get a super lightweight gun that recoils like crazy, kind of like the Scandium 357 revolvers that Smith puts out, any lightweight revolver for that matter, I've shown it on camera. You better be ready to man up. And and under stress, connecting with that, it's a lot to ask. Don't kid yourself. If you haven't shot it lately, do it. And, tell me how your accuracy was. Most concealed carry permit holders, honestly, and I'm talking to my civilian audience now. I know my police officers and military guys are still here, but talking to my civs right now, they don't practice enough. That's the reality. They don't. And so you choose, a very lightweight, subcompact 45 ACP 1911. I guarantee you most guys are not practicing enough. So if you ever have to shoot it, good luck. You need to practice with it. But in the POU of CCW, you get one of those subcompact ones, it's a different ball game. But full-size steel, nope, not for me. Scandium, aluminum frame, yeah, a little bit more doable. The good news is, ergonomically speaking, is the 1911 is a thin design. And it has that advantage over a lot of other competing polymer designs. XDM, for example. Thinness is, like I've said in many videos, a very important attribute in whether you're going to have that gun on your person when that dark day arrives and you really need it. Well, I left it at home because it was kicking into my kidneys. It was uncomfortable. That's one big plus with the 1911, that it is thin. And yes, with a good holster and with a lighter weight frame, for me, I know you may differ, it's more doable. Those are my philosophies of use on the 1911, snapshot in time, right now. However, they are the result of many years of experience with all types of handguns, including the 1911. Maybe not to the level of maybe some of you guys out there, but I'll just throw that out there. Size and weight. I think I've kind of covered that, haven't we, in the POUs? all 1911s. By the way, let me say this flat out. My favorite 1911 size is the full size. Yep, I love the full size 1911. I like the longer sight radius. I like the little bit extra velocity that may give me. Yes, I know we get faster burn times out of modern powders. Less of a factor than it was, years ago. I like it. I find that I shoot it better. Shooting the commander size 1911s, I have to concentrate more. I can't shoot it as fast. To me, that tells me that I need more training. Just like you, if we take a gun out, and this maybe goes back to another point where they say, well, I don't shoot a Glock very well. I shoot a 1911 is great. Well, I think you should train a little bit more before you make an ultimate decision which one's better. Shooting one magazine full of Glock, and because you couldn't hit anything first magazine, go, I hate Glocks. I say give it a little bit of extra time. Vice versa. If you shoot a Glock well and then you go to the 1911, which I, just saw that happen at an indoor range. The guy says, I cannot shoot a 1911 well. I actually hadn't heard that before. I was like, really? I usually hear the other thing. And he shoots a Glock and XDM is really good. I say either way, give it more time. Practice with it. And then you can determine it. Size and weight, though. Again, full size is my favorite. Depending on the POU, if I'm talking about a go-to-war gun, definitely full size. The weight, discussed already. Steel frame's about 42 ounces, about 32 ounces, give or take, 1 or 2 ounces either side for the aluminum or scandium frame versions. And I will be honest, at this point in time, and again, this is subject to change, but I prefer these for overall. If I had to choose one 1911, and guys will ask me, okay, 1911, I only have money for one. Do I go steel or aluminum or scandium? If you're an experienced pistol shooter, if you really don't have issues with recoil, I say go with the aluminum frame, scandium frame. Most guys own 1911s. I'm talking a typical civilian, maybe not a law enforcement or SWAT officer like OJ, who's putting thousands of rounds through a 1911. The aluminum or scandium frames are going to serve you very well, and it opens up, in my opinion, more possibilities for carriage. If you plan on putting thousands of rounds through your 1911, competitively, recreationally, or just, over the life of the pistol, go steel. Go steel. Firepower versus mobility. Same things apply, same thing as I've always said. Size and weight. On the individual tabletops for the type, if it varies from that formula, I'll address it there. Firepower. Already discussed. 8+1, generally speaking, in the 1911. Adequate for most social purposes, especially if you're a good pistolero. You're practiced. Okay, I understand that. Totally understand that. I shoot that way. I shoot to hit. If the gun comes out, it ain't playtime, and I'm talking defensive stuff here. It's time to freaking go to war and make those rounds connect. And I spend a lot of time myself training in that art, as do a lot of you guys. And if the 1911 is what you shoot best, then dude, that should probably be your go-to-war option. And if it's not, if it's just something you enjoy shooting, you and I are in complete understanding of each other, because I understand it. The 1911 is just a rush to shoot. All right, first 3 talking points. I probably forgot some crap. John Moses Browning, a genius in firearms design. Is the 1911 his greatest firearms achievement? Well, it's certainly one of them. That's what I would say. You'd have to caveat that. Well, what do you mean by greatest? Historically significant and world-changing? Well, I submit to you, it'd probably be his BAR, the M1918, his 30 cal machine gun, the air-cooled version, the M1919, the M1917 water-cooled machine gun. How about the M2 Browning Mod Deuce, which to this day is soldiering on and defending freedom across the world? Those are game changers. Those are historically significant Browning designs that changed battles, and battles change wars, right? Kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever read Citizen Soldier by Stephen Ambrose. Turn to page 192 in that book and read about a Lieutenant Lyle Book, that's B-O-U-C-K, who stopped a huge, overwhelmingly superior in numbers German force in the Battle of the Bulge, armed with 2 1919s, that's 30 cal Brownings, 150 cal and 6 BARs. With amazing success, at least initially. A fascinating story. That's what I'm talking about. Browning's machine guns. Wow. Game changers. And then you have the Browning High Power, which is copied by so many other tilting barrel designs to include the SIG. Yeah, firearms genius, absolutely. But along those lines, if you say the gun design from Moses Browning that has affected the most people, or actually has been put in the hands of the most people all over the world and increased their personal security, if you say that, it ain't the machine gun, it's the 1911, which can be owned by civilians, obviously. And it is an amazing design. Durable when it's done right, supremely accurate when it's done right, highly ergonomic, very carryable given the right holster and right system. I'm a fan. There are a couple limitations. It remains a very tremendously well-engineered pistol, even against some other very advanced and equally awesome designs, if you'd ask me, to this day. There you go. Philosophy on 1911 pistols. This is Nutnfancy. Thanks for watching. This was a fun video. It really was. Be cool to each other in the comments. Take care. We'll see you. Out. What do I see in there, boss? GSR by SIG?
SIG GSR.
Nice. How do you like that gun?
It works real well. I had a few problems in the beginning. I broke 2 extractors. Then I finally got an extractor from Caspian. Once I did that, it's been running ever since. I haven't had any problems with it.
Circa what year did you buy that?
I can't remember exactly. I want to say it's at least 8 or 9 years old. I've probably got close to 40,000 rounds through it.
Holy crap.
I shoot a lot.
Right on. Is that your duty weapon too?
It is.
Okay. And if you want to tell the world, what department are you associated with?
Washington County Department of Alternative Sentencing.
Cool. Reno Sparks?
Reno Sparks area.
Outstanding. Look at this dude's loadout, man. That's a lot of money in there.
Shooter's gold.
That is shooter's gold. I think I might distract him and walk away with this bag. Hey, look at that baby deer up there. It's good to see a 1911 running good here in Letzi. Doodle's running a 1911 PT 1911 Taurus aluminum version. Nice. We'll be running that until we run out of the expensive ammo for it. He's set up for the AR stage later in the day. Here it comes. Let's see what we got. Alright, not too bad.